think we're going to go ahead and jump in, and this is being recorded, so if anybody misses anything, they can catch it on YouTube later. So with that, hello everybody, thank you for participating in today's Zoom meeting on the Pompe Survey, Past Insights and Future Goals. Today's guest speakers are Lauren Dobischok and Michelle Kruijshaar. Lauren is the coordinator of the Pompe Survey at Erasmus Medical Center in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. She received her Bachelor in Science in Health Sciences with a concentration in Population and Quantitative Health from Simon Fraser University in 2020, and her Master's of Science in Epidemiology from the Netherlands Institute for Health Sciences in 2022. Lauren works closely with representatives from Pompe patient organizations around the world to maintain and expand the Pompe Survey, with the aim of creating an international network of patients whose perspectives inform future research. She is passionate about community-engaged research and hopes to connect and empower people living with Pompe disease through their participation in the survey. Michelle is a senior scientist epidemiologist at Erasmus Medical Center Rotterdam. In 2012, she joined the Center for Lysosomal and Metabolic Disorders, where her work is focused on investigating the effects of enzyme replacement therapy in patients with Pompe disease. Two key cohort studies at Erasmus are the basis for this work: the Dutch Pompe Registry and the International Pompe Survey. Michelle studied medical biology in Amsterdam and has a master's degree in epidemiology from the Netherlands Institute for Health Sciences in Rotterdam. In 2004, she obtained a PhD for her research on summary measures of population health from the Department of Public Health of the Erasmus Medical Center. Throughout their presentation, you can submit questions at any time by clicking the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom window. The guest speakers will answer the questions at the end of the presentation. And with that, Lauren and Michelle, I'm turning it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for the introduction. I'm just going to share my slides. And if you could confirm that you can see the slides.
Yeah, we can see them.
Great. Well, hello, everyone. Like Tiffany said, my name is Lauren, and I'd like to welcome you to the webinar on the IPA Erasmus Medical Center Pompe Survey. And like Tiffany said, again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the using the Q&A function, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. So here's a brief overview of my presentation. In this webinar, I would like to give you some information about the history of the Pompe Survey, how the survey is run, key insights that we've gathered from the survey, and why patient engagement is more important than ever, as well as how to participate in the survey if you're interested. So first, I'd like to start with a brief history of the Pompe Survey. So the Pompe Survey started in 2002. At that moment, a treatment for Pompe disease was on the horizon. However, at that time, little information was available on the manifestation of the disease in adults. And at that time, researchers at the Erasmus Medical Center in Rotterdam realized that data on the natural course of Pompe disease and how it impacts the life of patients was needed, since when treatment became available, it would get harder to study this. Beyond studying the disease in untreated patients, data on the natural course of the disease was also required to compare with treated patients later on in order to evaluate the effects of ERT, which were soon going to be available to patients. And in order to gather this information, researchers needed an easy-to-use, efficient tool which reached as many patients as possible around the world. The tool they came up with was the Pompe Survey. The development of the survey was a collaboration between the International Pompe Association and the Erasmus Medical Center. And with the help of patients, experts in the field, and the available literature, we created a survey that covers different issues and problems that Pompe patients face on a daily basis. So the Erasmus Medical Center has been involved in research on Pompe disease since 1984. During the last 40 years, scientists and clinicians from the Erasmus Medical Center have been involved in the cloning of the GAA gene, where they then created a knockout mouse model and demonstrated the efficacy of ERT in this model. Furthermore, scientists here treated the first patient with ERT in 1999. This, in combination with the work of many other groups, has led to the registration of ERT with FDA and EMA in 2006, and more recently, the development and approval of second-generation ERT Nexviazyme in 2022 and Pombiliti in 2023. In 2002, the Pompe Survey was started. In its 23 years of history, the survey has undergone several changes, from being based on paper to an online format, the addition of new questionnaires, and the translation of the survey into different languages to reach new populations. This brings us to 2025, where we look forward to expanding the survey further and reaching new heights as the longest running and largest study on Pompe patient-reported outcomes. The Pompe Survey started in 2002 with the goal to gain more insight into late-onset Pompe disease in adult patients. At the moment the survey started, Pompe disease in adults wasn't adequately described in the literature, and the initial goals of the survey were to gather information on the natural course of the disease and assess the severity and extent of the disease in these patients. Another goal of the survey was to measure the impact of Pompe disease on the daily life of patients and their well-being. A secondary goal after ERT got approved in 2006 was to monitor and evaluate the effect of ERT by comparing the data of patients on ERT with the data gathered in the previous years. As second-generation ERT has been made available, this goal has been renewed for us as we gather data on the changing needs of patients and their outcomes in the context of these new medications. The creation of the Pompe Survey has been a pioneering project and an important example of the importance of patient-reported outcome measures, particularly in rare disease research. Patient-reported outcome measures are information about a patient's health that come directly from the patient. Most patient-reported outcome measures can't be measured by a clinician. For example, there's no machine that measures how a patient feels or what their quality of life is. They can only be measured by asking patients how they're doing. It's also true that not all clinical measurements can capture what is relevant to the patient. While treatment may show that strength or lung function have improved in a clinical test, do you as a patient feel that you can do your daily activities independently? The insight from patient-led surveys, such as the Pompe Survey, add that insight to existing clinical outcome measures and improve clinicians' view on how well the therapy is working. With these new types of ERT on the market, the survey is now more important than ever in helping evaluate these new treatments going forward and also monitoring patients' quality of life and how their needs may change in the context of these new medications. This diagram shows how the Pompe Survey is designed. The survey is designed for anyone 16 years and older with late-onset Pompe disease. There is an initial baseline survey and then a follow-up survey each year. The survey is completed online and is available in 6 languages. Patients can join, or participants can join the survey at any time. The longstanding success of the Pompe Survey highlights the importance of collaboration between researchers and patient organizations when researching patient-reported outcomes, particularly in rare diseases. The day-to-day functioning of the survey is overseen by myself and my colleague Michelle at the Erasmus Medical Center here in Rotterdam. But we work closely with the national representatives from patient organizations around the world to recruit new participants, follow up on participants, and where contact may have been lost, and also to communicate about the survey to prospective participants and other patients such as through initiatives like this webinar. Looking forward, we hope to continue working closely with patient organizations and to expand to other organizations around the world to bring new patient perspectives into the survey. So in this slide, I will discuss the content of the Pompe Survey. In the baseline questionnaire, we ask information about the participant's diagnosis and family history. In the annual follow-up questionnaire, There are 3 components. The first general questionnaire asks questions regarding mobility, daily activities, breathing, sleeping, eating and speaking, and other complaints. The treatment section asks questions on treating clinicians, ERT, gene therapy, add-on therapies, and other complaints. The third section consists of several standardized questionnaires. The RPACT, or Pompe Activity Scale, was developed by scientists at the Erasmus MC to measure the effects of Pompe disease on a patient's ability to carry out daily life activities and their social participation. The short form 36 health survey measures quality of life on physical and mental domains and is also used in many different diseases. The EQ5D is a standardized questionnaire that scores at 5 levels of health to measure health-related quality of life. The fatigue severity scale measures the severity of fatigue and its impact on individuals' lives and was added because fatigue was a frequently reported problem from patients, but was underreported in the literature that was available at the time. Lastly, the Rotterdam Handicap Scale is a scale that measures participation, which is defined as the nature and extent of a person's involvement in life situations. Restriction in daily life activities is one of the most important things patients notice about their disease and also has a substantial impact on well-being. The survey generally takes 30 to 45 minutes to complete and is completed once a year by participants, usually online. So next, I'd like to discuss some of the findings of the Pompe survey. So more than 600 participants have participated in the survey historically across 12 countries. The survey has provided us key insights into the natural course of Pompe disease and the problems patients face, as well as the effects of ERT on things like physical abilities, daily life, and quality of life. So here is an overview of the participants in the Pompe survey. On the left, you can see an overview of all of the participants ever recorded in the survey. This is over 600 people, which is excellent to see for a survey on a rare disease. On the right, you can see an overview of the participation by country in the 2024 survey. You may note that there is a decrease in participants in the US and also particularly in Germany. So after COVID-19, in which the survey was less regular and a process of updating the survey, we are now focusing on renewing patient engagement in the survey, particularly for people in the US. And this is because we know there's a large patient population in the US. And we also think that they have a unique perspective that we would like to see properly represented in the survey response and that we might be lacking a little bit right now. So as for the results from the survey, the first study from the Pompe survey described the clinical manifestation of Pompe disease in 54 Dutch patients. This study showed that adult Pompe disease is progressive with certain events taking place at consecutive moments in the lives of patients. In 2015, the study was repeated with all international Pompe survey participants showing similar results, and that's what this figure shows. So this figure shows different life events that can take place in the life of a Pompe patient. On the x-axis, you can see the age of the patients, and on the y-axis, several events that can happen during their lives. The gray bar represents the 10th to the 90th percentile of ages at which the event happens, and the black line shows the median age. While the N right here represents the number of participants that were analyzed for each event. So as you can see, most patients have their first symptoms around the age of 30. However, 19% of participants report symptoms before the age of 12. Participants or patients usually also get diagnosed in their mid-30s, have problems, they're rising from lying down from the age of 40, and start using a wheelchair and ventilator support in their early 40s, while finally starting ERT in their late 40s. Another important insight from the survey was that related to fatigue. So when we assessed fatigue in the international population, it turned out to be a much bigger problem than previously anticipated. It was found that 9 out of 10 patients were fatigued and 2/3 of them were severely fatigued. Furthermore, 2/3 of the patients who were fatigued classified it as one of the most disabling symptoms. This figure shows the fatigue severity scale scores in different Pompe patient groups. An FSS score, which is the fatigue severity scale of greater than or equal to 4 is defined as fatigue, and a score greater or than or equal to 5 is severely fatigued. The average FSS score in healthy controls was 2.9, which is down here. So fatigue was actually found to be most severe in the more affected patients who are using both a wheelchair and ventilation. But this also helped us kind of discover that fatigue is really something important for a lot of Pompe patients and something that requires more attention and research. Later, as more data was gathered on patients on ERT, we were also able to demonstrate the positive impact of ERT on fatigue. On the y-axis of this scale, you can see the years, or on the y-axis, you can see the fatigue severity scale scores, and on the x-axis, you can see the years of follow-up, both prior, which is on the left here, and after ERT. The circles represent the mean individual scores of all the participants who filled out the questionnaires, and the black line shows the mean change calculated with a broken stick method for change. So when analyzing the data, we found that the FSS scores in patients remained stable and high before the start of ERT, but declined in treated patients. And this indicates that ERT has had a positive effect on fatigue over the years. In a similar analysis, we also found that social participation decreased significantly before the start of ERT treatment, and once ERT started, this stabilized. Finally, we found a similar effect for quality of life, where both physical quality of life decreased before ERT and stabilized once on our ERT, and mental quality of life remained stable for all phases, both before and after ERT therapy. So during the course of the survey, another outcome that was measured was survival. Originally, the survey was not designed to measure survival. However, due to close contact with the patient organizations around the world, we learned when a patient passed away, and were able to include this in the data. So when looking at the effect of ERT on survival, it was found that patients on ERT have, at any point in time, a 59% smaller chance of dying compared to someone not on treatment. Information such as this has proven to be very useful in many different settings, particularly in discussing reimbursement with insurance providers, as this research was one of the first where the effect of treatment on survival was demonstrated in adult Pompe patients. So over the years, the survey has proved to be very useful in providing a new insight into Pompe patients, the natural course of the disease, and also the effects of treatment. We've gotten information on the consequences of the disease, its progression, and the effect on treatment and survival. And through the effective and longstanding partnerships we have between the clinicians and patient organizations, we learned a lot about the patient's experiences of Pompe disease and how treatment can affect that. And although the survey has been going on for a long time, as new ERT drugs reach patients, the importance for patient-reported outcomes is higher than ever, and really something that we would like to see more representation of in a variety of countries, including the US. So to support our goals in increasing participation and expanding the survey, we're planning several exciting updates to the survey. The first is that e-consent will be rolled out in 2025 for patients. So this means that new participants can read about the survey and complete their informed consent online in the near future. While this is in progress, people who are interested in joining the survey now should request an information package by mail, which comes with a prepaid return envelope for mailing the consent forms back to us. And I will have a little more information about that at the end of this presentation. Additionally, we're working on a report on the results of the 2024 survey, which is something that we aim to continue each year in the future in order to give participants more information beyond what is submitted to the scientific journals in terms of the outcomes of the survey. And in addition, in order to provide more information to participants about their own progress over time, and also to help incentivize continued participation and support of the survey, we're also investigating how to provide personalized survey feedback to users in the future. So this could look like if you complete the survey for multiple years in a row, from each standardized questionnaire that is in the survey, you get a score, and you might be able to track what these scores are over time and see if your, for example, health-related quality of life score has remained stable or gone up or decreased over time. And you can, as a patient, look at that in context of potentially different changes that have happened with your treatment or your symptoms. And finally, we are working continually to add new participants and new countries to the survey, making the Pompe survey continue to be the largest and longest running study on patient-reported outcome measures in Pompe patients to date. So since the success of the survey is dependent on patient participation, I would like to thank anyone who is already a participant for filling out the questionnaires over the years. And I'd also like to thank anyone who's curious about the survey for attending this webinar. If you would like to participate, you can scan the QR code that I'll show at the end of the presentation to find our contact form. Simply fill in your details and we will send you an information package with everything you need to enroll in the survey. You can also contact Marcia Zimmerman, the U.S. National Representative, if you have any questions or interested in participating. And finally, if there are any other specific questions about the survey and how it is run, you can also always contact me by email. So this is what the contact form looks like. If you scan this QR code, which again, I'll keep it at the end of the presentation, you will come to our website where you can fill in a few short details, the most important being your name and your complete address. If we have these, we can mail you a information package, which also contains all the documents about how the study works and the informed consent form that you can sign and then return in the prepaid envelope. And again, hopefully in the next few months, e-consent will become available. And once that is up and running, once you scan this QR code, you will come to an area where you can not only register and read about the survey, but also complete the informed consent process and fill out the questionnaire immediately if you choose. So finally, I'd like to thank everyone involved for making the survey such a success from 2002 until now. The patients, the people from the patient organizations, the IPA team, as well as the researchers and clinicians in Rotterdam all play an instrumental role in the continued success of the survey. So I think for me personally, I'm very excited to see where things will go. And especially in the next year, I think we can reach new heights with the survey and really highlight patient voices in future research, especially with these new medications that are becoming available. So that is the end of my presentation. I'd like to now turn it back to Jules for any questions.
Thank you, Lauren, for the fantastic presentation. Our first question is the survey for patients or can caregivers complete it as well?
The surveys is for patients. So it is yeah, we are at this time, we're just looking for patients to complete the survey.
What do you think the most important thing we've learned from the survey so far? You mentioned pain and fatigue and longevity. Do you think that those are the three most important, or is there anything else that has really struck your interest?
Michelle, do you have any feedback?
Well, it's a difficult question. I think there's, yeah, from the symptoms, I think in the clinic, they were already aware of some other problems that you can see also more clinically, but I think fatigue is a real example of something that really came out of the survey, and there wasn't much awareness of that before the survey took place. So that is a really important point. And I think the health-related quality of life, you can imagine that people with Pompe disease don't have the best quality of life compared to people without a disease. So that was maybe not so surprising, but I think the biggest surprise was the fatigue. And pain is still a little bit under emphasized in the survey. There are some questions, but maybe that is also something for the report that we're going to write to see how much we can tell about that. Yeah. And I think also maybe for the patients to see, if they see the report, what is for you the most important result. That is actually the the biggest question. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
so at the
Go
survey,
ahead.
at the end of the survey, there is a field where participants can indicate if they feel like something was missing or maybe something wasn't explored enough. And we're always interested in hearing more about this as we continue to develop the survey. There is always a chance to potentially add things or remove things that maybe are not serving the participants in order to help best capture the perspective of the patient.
So another question, where can people go to see what reports and articles have been written that have used this data?
So on the website that is at the end of this QR code, there's also just a general homepage for the Pompe survey. In that section, there is a news area where new publications are posted. But this is something we're going to start updating more regularly. So also once the report is ready, this is something that we can share. And additionally, if you are a participant in the survey, we are going to be sending out email newsletters at a regular basis. This will also announce if there's a new publication or a new report available.
What about more historical publications?
Those should also be available on the website of the Center for Lysosomal and Metabolic Diseases. So again, if you follow the QR code, but there's a menu at the top, you can go to just the general information about the survey. There is a news section going back quite a few years.
So here's an important question. How do we know if we are signed up for the survey and if we already did it this year?
Well, if you have signed up for the survey, you would have probably received an email from us in the past few months because we sent out the survey in late 2024 and then we sent out several reminders. But if you're not sure, you can always send us an email. So you can email me or you can even fill out the contact form. We always check the participant list before sending out a new package. So if your name is appearing there, maybe we'll just get in contact with you to double check what's going on and see if you need to fill out the informed consent again. Because again, the survey has been going on for a very long time. So maybe you participated 10 or 15 years ago and potentially would want to participate again. That's totally possible, but you might need to complete the informed consent again because we made some changes in the last few years. But if you aren't sure if you've received the survey or if you've completed the survey in the last year, there's a certain window of time where you can complete it. So usually during that window of time, we send a few reminders. Once that period is over, then it's closed. So if you didn't participate this year, there will be next year for sure.
And you don't get a reminder if you've already completed it, right?
You won't be reminded if you already completed it.
So the only problem is that sometimes the invitations and maybe the reminders end up in your junk mail. So that is good to check that once in a while.
And also, if you believe you participated in the past and maybe your contact information changed, or also if you completed the survey on paper and maybe you moved, then it's great to shoot us a message just to confirm your details because, of course, over the years, these details change. So then we can rope you back in to the survey.
So somebody commented that the data supporting payer discussions is invaluable. And I completely agree with that. Just to share a little bit of my own story. I know when I first started treatment, fatigue and an improvement in fatigue was the first thing that I noticed. I couldn't say that I could walk farther or breathe better or anything like that, but I felt better. My fatigue was a little better. And I think that having a survey like this that is able to capture those changes that may not be seen in other objective tests is of critical importance and really do help support reimbursement. So let's see.
Yeah.
Somebody was mentioning they couldn't get the QR code, but we've taken care of that.
Got it. Yeah, I was speaking to another patient yesterday also, and she was saying how she's currently taking a double dose of time and how a lot of insurances, especially in the US, do not accept this because it's kind of being prescribed off label. But I think even this type of information you can include in the survey. So we ask about what type of treatment that you're on, when did you change, or why did you stop certain treatments? And I think especially as many patients are changing their medication regimen, this information will also be really interesting going forward and potentially useful in discussions with payers.
Yeah, I think, and the fact that the survey started in 2002 and is still ongoing is a huge credit to the dedication of Erasmus, the IPA, but the patient population as well. So I think it's really exciting to see, and I'm going to personally challenge my fellow US patients. We need more participation in the US. So let's see what we can do about that.
Yeah, we're so grateful. There are some participants that have been filling out the questionnaire for the whole 22 years almost, or since they were almost children, they were enrolled like from a very young age. So we're really grateful for that dedication and continued support. And I think now we're all really motivated to help bring more people into the survey because we really do find that the international perspective is valuable, and that also means in other countries that we are hoping to expand to.
If a patient moves to another country, for instance, does their record go with them?
Yes, so we actually had a couple patients that have done this. So we have a record of their old ID and now their new study ID because their ID in the study is linked to the country that they're in. So yep, this will follow them over time.
Can you explain the difference between the Pompe survey and the Pompe registry?
You want me to answer that?
Sure.
So the Pompe registry is a registry from Sanofi, and they ask the doctors all over the world to include their patients and provide information also over time. But it's started with clinical information, and they have more recently also included some of the questionnaires that we have, the scales like the SF-36 on quality of life. So patients can also report to them these patient-reported outcomes, which makes it a little bit competitive. But in my opinion, the Pompe registry is still mostly clinician focused, so not as focused on the patient-reported outcomes, and so they also don't reach the same amount of follow-up as we have done in our survey. So they may have, for the clinical outcomes, I've seen sometimes a patient could have been followed for several years, but out of those years, maybe only 2 years have been reported by the clinician. So yeah, of course, I'm biased, but I would certainly recommend to at least participate in the Pompe survey. And of course, your clinician can report the data also to the Pompe registry. Then another point, because now we are having not just Sanofi as a producer of enzyme replacement therapy, but there's a second company. And that means that also it is becoming more important that we are collecting this data actually independent from industry in like a national registry, the clinical data and the patient-reported outcome in the Pompe survey, because then you can compare the different treatments. If the industry keeps collecting this information, then you have information purely on this drug and on the other drug, and you cannot compare them because the data is in different places.
Yeah, I
So,
completely agree. I think that's
Yeah, so that promotes the survey more, and as well as setting up national registries and linking those internationally. Yeah.
well, and I also like that it's in the patient's control. We can be sure if we have answered it or filled it out or completed it, it's up to us to decide. Whereas the registry, you can request your doctor to complete it, but they may or may not do it as diligently as we may wish.
Yeah.
So another question, do you capture people's ethnicity?
No.
No. No, we don't. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. From a research perspective, who has access to the data? How can someone gain access?
So the data is stored. We capture it with an electronic data capture system called Castor, and it's stored on a secure server there. And the people that have access to it really are me and maybe not even Michelle, and it's really mostly me at this point. So unless we are preparing a specific analysis, we might export the data for certain use, but at this point it is always completely anonymized. So all data in Castor has no details about the patient, so no name. Well, it has their birth date, but their name is missing, and it's replaced with an ID, so it is anonymized. So there is no situation where the identity of the patient can be connected to the survey results. They're always stored separately.
Yeah, and I think there's partly a second question in this question, is if someone wanted to use this information for an analysis that were a question to address a question that we haven't answered. And I think we are working on that together with the IPA to determine how we can facilitate this, that people can ask questions. Maybe other research groups might want to work with us to analyze certain things. And also you can let us know if you have things that you think we should be analyzing.
I think that second question was more, what the question was, is they've responded again. On the researcher question, if someone other than you, outside of Erasmus, wanted to advance research, I guess, could they, submit a query to the survey? And to your point, that is something that we are actively working on at this time.
Yes.
Is there a minimum age to participate? And is there a plan to expand it in the future if there is?
Yes. So the minimum age to participate is 16. So anyone, it's open to anyone 16 and up that has late onset Pompe disease. So it is not open to people with infantile onset Pompe disease. But we do hope to in the future expand to include also children. But there we would have to make some changes to the questionnaire. So yeah, at this time, 16 and up.
And so we now are fortunately in a period where we have infantile onset that are older than 16. So is that also a population that in the future would be able to participate?
Michelle, I think in the protocol, was there initially any language about infantile onset patients or?
Yeah, so we haven't targeted exactly some of the specific problems that patients with classic infantile Pompe disease may have. So even if you are now 18 and you have classic infantile Pompe disease, the questionnaire is not completely suitable for you. And also we would have to then be able to distinguish, because of course the effects of therapy, for example, some things we study may differ between classic infantile and late onset patients. So that is simple, I guess, to do, but yeah, it would need some amendments to even include the older classic infantile patients. Yeah. Oh, you're on mute.
It is something that we are actively working on because
Yeah.
we see the need as a community. Are there any other questions from the audience? I don't want to take over. Oh, here's another one. What languages are currently supported?
So currently the survey is available in English, French, Spanish, Italian, German. I think, is there one that I'm missing, Michelle?
Dutch.
And Dutch, of course, the original language. Yes. So, but we are exploring opportunities to potentially expand to other languages, but I think that will be mostly guided by whether we can make connection with patient organizations in other countries, because the national representatives have always been very helpful in helping facilitate some of those translations.
Yeah, we were very excited to get Italian and Spanish recently added. That's going to be very exciting.
Yes. And now that we have this contact form on our website, I noticed we've been getting some requests from people all over the world, and even in other countries like Finland, we got Ukraine. So a lot of them are requesting the survey in English, but I think it's really good that we have different language options for the international audience.
Where do you want to see the survey go in the future? Say 5 years from now, what would you like it to look like?
For me, I would like to see the survey. I would like to see more participants in the survey from around the world. So when I showed the pie graph, we saw there were a lot of Dutch participants, and that's mainly because all Dutch Pompe patients are treated at our center. So it's a lot easier to chase them and follow up with them about their participation, but I would be really happy if we could have a more representative participation from each country. So we know there are a lot of patients in Spain, for example, or in France, and at this time we are, and in the US, and we're missing some of those voices. So I would love to see a lot more people participating. I would also love to see that e-consent is fully rolled out and is a really smooth process. So there's no barriers to participating with the mail or, delays. If a person would like to participate, they can read about the survey and join just online. And I would love to see more publications related to the survey. So I think this is a really important time where we are gathering more data and engaging more people. And I think that will result in a lot of really interesting insights in the next few years.
Yes, I think we need simple reports, regular simple reports, because previously the survey has focused very much on the research side. So that takes a long time to write a difficult paper, get it published. So I think there should also be some more, accessible, easy accessible, simple numbers out there of what we found. And I think it would also be great if we could find a way to link to use maybe this together with national registries, so with clinical data, to provide the data that the industry and the EMEA, what is it, the FDA in the US require for the reimbursement and the longer follow-up of the new treatments, rather than collecting everything double in registries and surveys and industry registries, clinical registries. So I think there's still a lot to achieve, as well as, of course, something for classic infantile patients.
From a practical, standpoint, if somebody were to sign a consent form today, how soon would they receive the survey to fill out? Is it something that, because you mentioned there was a time frame each year to fill it out, so would new applicants, new registrants receive it, next month, or would it wait till the next rollout in the fall, winter?
So there's a difference between the baseline and the follow-up survey. The follow-up survey is going to be every year at one specific time, and then you have just a window to fill it out of usually about a month. But the baseline survey, so for someone who's new and joining the survey, can be filled out at any time. And usually once we receive the informed consent documents within the next week, we will send them an invite, and that usually to their email. And that link normally does not expire. So really they have a long time to fill it out. But generally after a month or two, I will check back and see who's been invited to fill out the baseline survey. And if they haven't filled it out, I'll send them a little reminder. But no, there's no time frame. And if especially once the e-consent comes out, I think the process between when you consent and can fill out the survey will be very fast.
I think we're all looking forward to that.
Yes. We are making some great steps forward on that, so I'm really excited about it as well.
Great. So let's see, we've covered who can participate, how you participate, language it's available in. What, if you had to sell this to patients, how would you, in a brief statement, encourage us to participate? Why is it important to you and to us?
I think that participation in the survey is important for patients because I think there's a phrase in research called "nothing about us without us." So that's meaning that patients should be involved in research and, have a chance to give feedback and share their personal voice. It's not only just about clinical measurements. that are, you know, measured and overseen by doctors. So I personally think that by including your voice in the survey, you're not only, you know, helping the research as a whole, but you're also sharing your unique and valuable perspective that, you know, only you know, and that's a really amazing opportunity, and that I think people should feel excited about doing.
What was that phrase again? 'Cause I really liked it. Nothing
About us without
without
us.
it.
Yeah.
I really like that. That's great.
Yeah. So it means that, you know, the people that you are researching should be involved in the research that you're doing, and, you know, should feel like they can also contribute and have a voice. And I think that's also what I really like about the survey and find really empowering for the patients as well.
I completely put you on the spot with that question, but I fully agree. I think that that collaboration and that, yeah, collaboration and teamwork, the
Yeah.
partnership between the patient community and the scientific community has always been so strong in Pompeii, and we need to keep pushing it and making it stronger, because you're right. It's our voice. We're the ones that use treatments. We're the ones that can say what unmet needs are the most important to us. And we're a very diverse population with the spectrum of the disease. So we need every voice being heard. So if you want your voice heard, join the survey. Now's the time.
Yes, I totally agree.
We have time for maybe one more question if anybody has anything. No? Well, Lauren and Michelle, thank you so much for this presentation today. I think you provided some very invaluable information, and I'm really excited to see a boost in enrollment. So how about a month from now, we send out a little update to our members on how many new people reached out? Sound good?
Yes, I'm excited.
Great. So then that's our plan. We will let y'all know how things went, and tell your friends, tell everybody in the community. This is important.
Yes.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to end today's webinar, and it will be available on the AMDA YouTube site shortly. And Lauren and Michelle, thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you so
Good
much.
day.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day. Bye.